Yeah, we back, baby. I ain't forget about you. I'm here for you, man. Welcome back to the goddamn prescription. You know what I'm talking about? You know, I'm at a beautiful time in my mind. I'm not gonna motherfucking lie. Like the way I've been allowed to see shit. You know what I'm talking about? You know, um, it's been beautiful. It really has. And I'm blessed to be able-minded and try to ask why in a world full of that nobody give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Today we're gonna talk about crucify, the cost of truth in the conforming world. I had this thought. I was listening to the Bible in the truck. I listened to some, trying to get my, scripture and things of that nature. But a thought popped in my head, and I was like, well, it seems like for me, just from my lens, that Jesus was, the story of Jesus, right? It seems like he was crucified for being different. And I drew a direct parallel from that to how creatives are done the same. You know what I'm talking about? The James Baldwins, the Tony Moores, Malcolm X's, the people who seek to make a change and don't just go along with the get along. And I had to find a way to connect those two thoughts. You feel what I'm saying? And that's where the fun really began. Because I think one thing as creators that we have to understand, right? For a long time, I was born to a family full of creators and free thinkers. So I somewhat inherently, you know what I'm saying, developed a thinking process of my own instead of following some other niggas, like smoke, like most people do. If you don't have those examples, you're gonna end up being a follower more times than not because you're not gonna know which way to go. You're kind of blind, so anybody can take your hand when you're blind. And but one of the most important things that question that always popped up from anybody in my family was why. You're gonna have to ask why. You're gonna have to have an answer for why, and not having an answer is not an answer for why. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand that there's a validity in having a thought and being able to execute that thought and being able to present that. It's a gift, not everybody has, and I think my interpretation of what I've seen and what I've read so far, is being crucified for being different is fucked up, and the cost of truth in the conforming world, it might cost you your life, and so I want to present this to you. Let me frame this up. You know what I'm saying? What if I told you that Jesus wasn't crucified for being a criminal, right? But he was crucified for being different, not just quirky or eccentric. He was different in a way that threatened comfort, that questioned power, and defied the structures that held society together. He was crucified because he dared to exist outside the blueprint of conformity. And that story, right? It didn't die on the cross. It repeats itself every single day. For anyone who chooses truth over silence, vision over approval, and freedom over fitting in, you know, it is going to repeat itself. It's a forever loop. It's looping back and forth, right? And society doesn't kill people, in my opinion. Systems do, right? When Jesus walked into them temples and flipped the tables, he healed people when the law said don't. He broke bread with outcasts, forgave enemies, and preached love where there was only law. And to some, that made him divine, and to others, that made him dangerous. The religious elite didn't fear his miracles. The Roman Empire didn't fear his sermons. They feared his influence. I'm going to say it again, because that's a word that pops around and is labeled to in everybody right now. You're an influencer. I'm an influencer. My question is, what are you influencing? Right? I'm going to say it again. Those Religious elites in that Bible, in my opinion, didn't fear his miracles. The Roman Empire didn't fear his sermons, they feared his influence. They feared that he wasn't controlled. And in today's world, we no longer use literal crosses. We use cancellations, censorship, ridicule, and isolation. And for those who think differently, feel deeply, or create art that disrupts, are still being symbolically crucified, right? So for the artists and the rebels and the free thinkers, if you've ever been told like that's too weird, or that won't sell, or you overthinking this shit, you really doing too much. Why can't you just do it like everybody else? I've had all of those questions asked to me. Why don't you do it like this person doing it? Why don't you do it like that person doing it? Well, why don't you? Well, why don't you? Well, my question, well, my answer be, well, why don't you just shut the fuck up? Because I'm obviously not doing that. It don't. It's more than just getting views and clicks. To me, I really have an independent thought. I really have my own mind, and I don't give a fuck what a society or an algorithm said. I'm gonna get my shit off. It don't matter if it pop, it pop. If it don't, it don't. But the work will still be here. This shit is gonna live on forever. I'm gonna forever be on here. It'll forever be on here. You know what I'm saying? And just in case they do some weird shit, some whole shit, like, oh, we're gonna take this shit off. Everything is backed up as well. You feel what I'm saying? That's how serious it is for me. And I know there are people out there that need this, that want to hear this, who have this same thought, but maybe that thought hasn't been explored in a certain way, or sometimes we look for different shit, and that's what I provide. But I've asked those questions, not asked questions, but I've been asked those questions several times. People who don't understand, a lot of times they don't even check you out all the way. They just see what they see, listen to you a little bit. They don't even hear you all the way through, or you know what I'm saying. So these are people who don't look all the way through. It's like somebody trying to look for their keys and it's right in front of them, but you're not even looking. You just frantically just walking from place to place. You're not even pacing down. Like you ain't even scaling down everywhere you've been through, following your footsteps to find your keys, and they right there in front of your face. You're like, God damn, that shit right in front of my face the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Like in the Tupac song, you can't see me. Visualize what you can't see. I'm right in front of your eyes, you still can't see it. You know what I'm saying? That's what the truth is. It's many veils and many layers of veils being, you know, put in front of what we really need as a society, right? And so for all the artists, rebels, and free thinkers, I'm gonna say this shit again. If you haven't been told that's too weird or that won't sell or you're overthinking, why can't you just do it like everyone else? You've already been handed your own crown of thorns. See, the world doesn't know what to do with those because it can't label, monetize, or domesticate it. So it mocks you. It questions your sanity. I've been called autistic before. So when the world doesn't know what to do, shout out to my autistic people, but I think people be trying to find the label to put certain things on. They just start saying any motherfucking thing. You know, unfortunately for them, it's something that they can't fathom. They ain't never seen nothing like this. So they got to put a label on something instead of just letting it just be. You understand what I'm saying? And I didn't take it. I took it as a more of an insult of my intelligence. You know, because I've worked with autistic kids, and I understand that their level of intelligence and their level of creativity. So at some point, I get it, but I don't, because I don't know. Like I still don't know how to take that. You know what I'm saying? I know it's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not still not sure if the person meant it or didn't mean it or didn't have the correct words for it. But it's fucked up that instead of just not saying nothing, that'll come out of somebody's mouth. And there's been more than one time. Not that particular thing been said, but a few times that people just question, like, no, like you ain't never seen somebody on their purpose. You never seen somebody actually like getting back to their core self and really getting content out and producing content, whether it's music, art, or something from the soul, from a very special place. If you don't know what that looks like, then I can't really be mad, because some people don't know what that looks like in this circus of what this shit is right now. Let's get back on topic. they'll you've already been handed your crown of thorns. So the world doesn't know what to do with that. It can't label and monetize it or domesticate it, so it mocks you. It questions your sanity. It pushes you to conform. It punishes you, or it punishes you if you don't. And that spirit of rebellion is very sacred. You understand what I'm saying? So to be different in a world built on sameness is an act of spiritual resistance. When you create honest art in a world obsessed by virality, when you speak uncomfortable truths in a culture addicted to comfort, when you choose purpose over performance, you walk on the same road that Jesus walked. Not because you're trying to be a martyr, because you just refuse to be a mirror. You understand what I'm saying? And even going deeper into that is that I don't want you to feel like you're alone, because we're not alone. We're not alone. Many of us are out here, but we got to find each other through all this bullshit. You know what I'm talking about? And that this history is littered with prophets and poets and misfits and visionaries who were crucified in spirit long before they were ever praised. Nina Simone was banned and blackballed. Malcolm X was vilified before he was venerated. John John Michael Basquiat genius was called graffiti. Lauryn Hill walked away from the machine to protect her soul. Dave Chappelle walked away from the machine to protect his soul. Andre 3000 walked away from the machine to protect his soul. A lot of creators walked away from this machine to protect themselves and protect their art. So even if you feel out of place, maybe it's because you were born to build a new place. Maybe you was born to build a new path. Maybe you wasn't born to walk the same path that everybody in the goddamn walk. You wasn't born to follow roads and just go on, just put your head down and just I'm gonna walk on over here. Sometimes you got trails that the grass been walked down so much it don't shouldn't grow no more. And sometimes you gotta walk a trail, blaze a new path with your goddamn uh, big sharp machete and chop some shit down and make a new path and find a new way to figure out what you're doing. And you got to have the endurance for that. You got to have encouragement for that. And I know sometimes as a creative human being, it can seem hard because especially if you're creating from a sacred place. You know, if something has hurt you, you traumatized and you transmute that energy from being traumatized into something that's triumphant. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that and you don't receive what you know what I'm saying? Like it's a different thing when you start doing it because you don't even, you care about it, but you don't because it's bigger than you. Like the sugar pill shit is way bigger than me. And every day I think about ways how I can make this more tangible. And I always pray about the day when I can take this platform and really hit the streets with this shit and really make it, you know what I'm saying, and really make it into something that's gonna be bigger than, you know what I'm saying. Like it's way more important than just me on a platform trying to monetize this shit, trying to do whatever. I actually have a gift of seeing people, um, not see people, but I have a gift with connecting with people. My whole life I've had that, and it took me up until maybe 5 years ago to realize when I started to get back. I was at my lowest moment mentally and spiritually, at my lowest moment, and that led me back to getting back to the core of me. So I'm telling you this from a personal spot. You feel what I'm saying? And um, it's a lonely road being different. You know, not just quirky and not just like the others, not just different or whatever they want to call it, but truly out of sync with the rhythm the world dances to. You speak truth and people flinch. You create what you feel, not what's trending, and it gets ignored. You question things others accept without a second thought. And somewhere along the way, you begin to wonder, is there something wrong with me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, people ain't even putting in all the hard work that I'm putting in, and they seem to be getting more. What the fuck am I doing wrong? You feel what I'm saying? Nah, it's something right with you. So right, in fact, that the world hasn't figured out how to receive you yet. See, you walk a path many have walked. You're walking a path that many have walked and paid the price for. You ain't the first one to be called too much. I don't really understand that nigga over there. He doing something. I don't really know what the fuck he doing over there. He ain't. I don't know. I can't. You ain't the first one that felt like that. That been told that. You ain't the first one to feel isolated in a crowded room. Not the first one to feel like your truth costs more than it rewards you. James Baldwin said that the place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it. Toni Morrison wrote stories that they try to keep off of shelves, and they still trying to keep off of shelves. Now they teach entire generations from those books that Toni Morrison wrote. Frida Kahlo painted her pain when the world wanted her to be quiet and pretty. Kendrick Lamar rapped about trauma, race, faith in a genre that often rewards numbness over nuance. These weren't just artists or thinkers, they were light bearers in dark systems. Right? And so if you're misunderstood, you're likely onto something sacred. There's a spiritual weight that comes with carrying a vision that the world can't see yet. And when you operate from truth, you'll find yourself isolated from trends. And that solitude is not punishment, it's preparation. Because you're being refined, not rejected. You're being called inward, not casted out. Like your silence is not an erasure, it's an incubation. Like you being forged by pain, you being forged by whatever you've been through that makes you create what you create, and how you create it, and how you see life through the lens that you see it through. You're being forged by fire, you're being forged by pain, forged by that trauma, and you putting the extra effort in into saying, you know what, I'm not gonna let this shit eat me up, but I gotta heal some way. And sometimes it leads you back to your core you. You understand what I'm saying? So, and while it feels like nobody else gets you, trust me, like there trust that there are others out there just like me and you, living in the in between. A week ago, I talked about living in the in between of being finally free and being fucked up. Go watch that video. Now, holding on to a flickering light, but a fierce light. That's what a lot of us is doing. We're trying to find our way. We're trying to find the X in life. I always make this analogy. It's like life is like finding the X. Like you know where you want to be, and you know where you are. You gotta find out the in between. You gotta find out that the you know what I'm saying. You gotta find out what's going on that in between. You gotta figure out what the fuck is going on in here. I gotta find that X. You know, and unfortunately, or fortunately, this is the cost of authenticity in artificial age. People will try to shrink you, not because they're evil, because some of these some bitches don't know no motherfucking better, but because your full self forces them to confront their own smallness. Your art makes them feel things that they've been trying to numb. Your words hit places that they buried. Your presence reminds them of who they could be if they had the courage to be free. A lot of these niggas ain't got the courage. They cowards out here. They don't have the courage to actually not only think or say what they want to and live with the consequences of that. Fuck it. We'll find a way. Everybody ain't living like that. So here it is. You ain't strange and you ain't broken. You ain't too much. You simply ahead. So much ahead that you looking to, like you ever lap somebody get lapped. You know what I'm saying? He may be behind somebody, like, no, he ain't behind him. Like he really in front of him. He just on his bumper again because he lapping him. And ahead always looks alone at first. But the lone wolves always find each other. The prophets, the poets, the soul speakers, the heart bleeders, the people who care too much in the world that feels too cold. We recognize each other by scars, by the questions, and by the quiet defiance. And when we can find each other, we don't just build community, we build culture. So if you're reading this and it feels like your soul is carrying more than it should, just hold on. There's a tribe waiting for you. You're not alone. Not now and not ever. Come home to the trip here. You know, we here with open arms. I need you here. I can't do this shit by myself. We trying to. This is a squabble. You understand what I'm saying? This is a squabble. You feel me? God damn, this is a squabble. You know what I'm saying? But so when I correlate that, I draw parallels to Jesus, the story of Jesus, right? It's because I didn't think he died because he was evil. He died because he refused to conform. He was crucified for committing, like he wasn't crucified for committing crimes. He was crucified for committing truth in the world addicted to lies. You know what I'm saying? In a word that tells you don't ask many questions, don't color outside the lines, don't speak too boldly, love too openly, or challenge too deeply, you dare to exist any motherfucking way. You feel what I'm saying? So Jesus was punished for loving too freely. You might be shamed for feeling too deeply or creating art that touches taboo subjects. He challenged the systems that meant to box people in, and you challenge tradition. You challenge the algorithm. You challenge gatekeepers. You challenge groupthink, and you get labeled difficult, radical, or crazy. And he repped the kingdom, not of this world. You create or think in a frequency that the world hasn't fully caught up to yet. You understand what I'm saying? So to be misunderstood isn't always a curse. Sometimes it's a confirmation that you're walking the same road that the greats walked. Not just Jesus, you know what I'm talking about? Shout out to Jesus. But shout out, to the ones who walked this path before you. The Tupacs, the Basquiats, the Lauren Hill, Anita Simone's. There's a reason why and I can go deeper, and I might have a part two, but how that would draw parallels with this shit is how the FBI and the CIA was tapping the phones of influential black artists, not because they did something wrong, but because their music was so motherfucking cold that it influenced people. Now, look who they turning into the influencers now. People who don't do nothing. People who hold no fucking value in our culture. They don't have no value. Everybody they give the money to, everybody they give the power to, holds no value in our culture. And the ones who really hold the value gotta fight just to get seen. We gotta fight an algorithm. We gotta fight our own people, and we gotta fight the opposition, whoever the fuck they may be, which is don't have no certain look to it. It was whoever want to stand in our fucking way of getting the fucking job done that we gotta get done. That's why we here. You feel what I'm saying? So being different will cost you something. That's something that I understood going into even just being growing up in South Dallas and growing up just in the world, period, right? Even being married, I understand that goddamn, being different gonna cost you. Being different cost me my marriage. I don't think my ex-wife fully she understood me. She loved me at some point. I don't think she understood me. At the same time, I don't think she quite cared to. You know what I'm saying? It's weird, but we we just can't be handled any kind of way because we ain't just any type of people. Like Aaliyah said, I gotta watch my back. I ain't just anybody out here. You ain't just anybody out here. You a different breed. You understand what I'm saying? But being different will cost you something. Maybe not a literal cross, but the rejection, isolation, mockery, censorship, mental strain. You understand what I'm saying? But like Jesus, like many other people who walk the same path that we walking right now, your difference might be the very thing that saves people down the line. Your art, your vision, your content, your purpose, your questions, your boldness. They might not fit the mold, but only because you wasn't built for the mold. You break the mold. You understand what I'm saying? Like you wasn't built to fit in nowhere. You was built to blaze a own path for the ones who following behind you. And sometimes when you blaze a new path, you might not be the one that benefits off the bat. But boy, you're gonna save some souls down in the future. If you're creating something that is bigger than you have to understand that might be your purpose. It might not be to make the big famous whatever. It's probably just made. Hey man, you gotta be somebody gotta blaze the path. It's only a few of us out here. It ain't enough. It ain't enough real niggas out here to blaze a path. Only a few are going to do that. And so you gotta tap in with that few people who, you know what I'm saying, who you on the same frequency where you ain't gotta agree with them all the way. We ain't talking about just being compliant. We're talking about just people who have that same frequency of asking why. People who you can have dialogue with and nobody is in their emotions about it. People are just voicing what's going on and trying to figure out, you know what I'm saying, what's happening. I need to hear your perspective and you need to hear mine. People are able to be an active listener. A lot of folks ain't. You're gonna find yourself in a weird place. That's why I'm creating this right now. This is what led me all the way back to the thought of the lens that I finally saw, you know, when reading through the Bible. I saw Jesus still like, okay, he just was, you know what I'm saying? He different. He didn't do nothing, but they were scared because he had the influence. He had the people. And when you see that, you can go through history, you can read about how they was tapping phones of influential people and how they still tap them phones and how they deal with them, how they get them out of here if they can, how they box them off if they can, how they seal you off, how they keep you from getting the job done. And you understand more the story of Jesus. This ain't even about no religion. We're talking about just stories and just people and creatives and how we get through what we get through. That's why I always say my content is made for the intellectual hustlers and people of this world who had to create something out of nothing, and that's for and that that's a lot of us that grew up in some of these areas. We had to create something out of nothing. Shit ain't easy, never been. But a lot of us are willing to go through that. Well, not a lot of it, but a few of us are willing to go through that. But not a lot of us are willing to have the stamina to keep going. And some of us give up and quit. But the ones who don't give up and quit, I'm right here. You know, we right here. So if you read this again, I'm gonna say this again. When we find each other, we don't just build community, we build culture. Culture. That's my time, man. I'm the Trill Pill. This is the prescription. Tap in, log in, do whatever you gotta do. Links is everywhere. No excuses. Real niggas is back in style. We ain't never going nowhere. All I got is for you is ghetto gospel, man. Mind your mental to be, mind your mental, stay trill and heal, and most of all, stay mentally healed, mentally trill. Stay tuned and stay trill, man. I'm gone.